Welcome to the Poke It podcast with me, Pete Jenkins, and my co-host, Nicola Cairncross. In the show, we'll be getting deeply interested in everything and everyone, including business and entrepreneurship, investing, crypto, great films, books, and sci-fi, served up with great food and wine, and a little bit of gamification, and the odd guest thrown in for good measure. You can join in the conversation anytime at the Poke It podcast private group on Facebook. Now, let's see what we're going to be poking at today, shall we?
My name's Pete Jenkins. I'm here with my co-host Nicola Cairncross, ready for another episode of Poke It. I thought I'd start just by saying, Nicola, what have you been up to for the last week?
Well, it's been a mixed week this week. I'm in the middle of a change of accountant because my last accountant was my sister's partner. Let's call him partner. Boyfriend. They're all a bit old for that. And he's absolutely wonderful and I love him to bits, but he is very, very busy. And he also never felt that he could charge me full rates because I'm a family member. So we had this dichotomy going on where he wasn't really charging enough. And I never felt I could give him a hard time because of that. And so I also ended up at the back of the queue sometimes, which has caused problems in the past. Not his fault. You know, I should have been more on top of it. So I'm changing accountant just to get away from that family connection kind of thing. But I'm also trying to get my head around limited company year ends, personal tax year ends. And I've had to, my brain can't visualize it at all because it's all different dates. And then there's different time periods for when you have to get your accounts in. So I actually had to draw out a timeline and put my personal year ends and what's been done and what hasn't, my limited company year end, what's been done and what hasn't, Phoebe's personal tax and what's been done and what's hasn't, because I do my daughters as well. And that's just been really difficult. And then I made a trial balance. So that involved
when you say change accountants, do you mean you're doing it yourself?
Well, I have a new accountant, which is someone who's on, sort of works with my mentor, my business mentor. And I think he's going to sign off on them, but I have to do the prep. And normally I run, well, up until this year, I ran very detailed spreadsheets where every single penny coming in and out of every account was accounted for. And because I do a lot of work with America, that was PayPal, that was Stripe, that was my personal bank account. So there was quite a lot of contouring dollars and pounds. So it was quite complicated. So I'm trying to simplify everything. And this last year, of course, has been a bit of a weird one with, last financial year. My financial year starts at the end of September. So it's sort of covered the whole COVID period and me coming back from Greece. Yeah. And so it's been quite interesting to get my head around it all, but I've made a good start on it. A good start with my little visual drawing. And the other thing I've been up to this week is trying to come up to speed on macroeconomics. Not something I ever thought, got grade 3 CSE at school, which wasn't great in maths. And so macroeconomics has never been on my radar particularly, but as you know, I'm quite interested in what's happening at the moment, so be coming up to speed with that. But I just wanted to recommend it to everyone. I don't know if you've listened to watch the Kaiser report at all. It's a Brit and an American, and they're very, very, very clued up about money, and they're very, very funny, and they interview lots of really clever people on the show. And it's 3 times a week, 20 minutes. And if you want just a good roundup on what's going on in the world, but not one that hasn't been censored, shall we say, then it's a good show to watch. And they're on YouTube. And also they've just come out with a new show. And I think what they're doing is they're trying to create a personal brand on YouTube as well, because they've come out with a new show called Orange Pill. And it's much more surreal. So it's macroeconomics, but a more surreal take. And this week they had me in stitches on Sunday morning. I don't know if anyone else would find it funny, but I do.
Did you take the pill? Is that what was happening?
Well, I felt like I had. I'll tell you, listening to those two. But they're super smart. But they were weaving Bitcoin, religion, macroeconomics, and what was it? And the other thing, turning solar energy into crypto, because they've invested in this company that encourages people in Africa to put solar panels on their roofs and turn the excess income into crypto, which of course is much more empowering for people in Africa because a lot of them aren't banked. They're unbanked. So, but anyway, they were just a way. Oh, they were UFOs in it as well, and you know what a mad UFOer I am. It was just hilarious. It was all about how
An unidentified financial outcome. Is that?
Sorry?
An unidentified financial outcome?
Yes, very good, Pete. Very good. Anyway, it was just hilarious. It was about how UFOs are slipping between dimensions. They're not coming from other planets. They're slipping between dimensions, and that's how Satoshi came here in the first place, Satoshi Nakamoto, and started Bitcoin because he realized that the humans were never going to pull themselves out of the political and tyrannical pit that we're in unless we have a currency that's unfiddleable with by governments. And it was just such a brilliant show, weaving all these disparate themes together. I just was laughing to myself, and I was thinking, if anyone
worship the Bitcoin, is that how it goes?
Well, and Max Kaiser, who's one of the guys I'm talking about, he thinks he is the Satoshi's disciple on Earth, because he's been a Bitcoin fan for years and years and years.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway,
a little extreme at the moment.
They were having a laugh, and I suspect there was alcohol involved. They do like a margarita, those two, but when they do their main show, they're quite professional. But this the orange pill, yeah, well worth it. What about you, Pete? What have you been up to this week?
Oh, I'll tell you in a second. But I'm interested in the swapping of accountants bit and doing your own accounts. But because I think that's something that everyone has to look at from time to time. And I fired my accountants at the beginning of lockdown, COVID.
Okay, why did you do that?
Because I felt they had no empathy. They were all just about the numbers. You know how we were. You relate to your customers, your suppliers, and in March, April, we were all negotiating and finding things to help each other. Can I reduce this over here, but put this up over there? Can we change payment terms, all that sort of thing? And the one noticeable exception in everyone I dealt with, whether they were supplier or customer, was my accountants, who were very fixed, very no flexibility whatsoever. Right. And I thought it was really interesting. And some of the decisions they took, I didn't like. And I actually, because they're a local accounting firm, we're not
going to name and shame them, are we?
No, we're not.
Much as we'd like to.
But I spoke to some of my friends who also used them, and they felt similarly offended, but not prepared to take the hassle of moving accountants. Yeah, yet, although some are now in the process of doing it now that things have settled down.
Yeah.
And so I went, I'm going to change accountants, like you were saying. But I've done my own accounts in the past. And actually this year, to be honest, they're a bit simpler than normal.
Yeah.
There's less money coming in. But also I'm not having to, when I run a conference, normally I have to go abroad to do all the research, pay in a different currency, sort different things out. And most importantly of all, the biggest hassle is VAT when you're doing a European conference.
Oh, I couldn't even think about doing my own VAT.
So I do my own VAT, that's fine. But when you're doing a conference abroad, you have to set up a company in that country.
Really?
The VAT at their local rates because you're delivering something in that country, which is just...
Right. Not the same when you speak in another country, though.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that. It's the selling of tickets, basically.
Yeah.
And delivering.
So I struggle with accountancy software. I mean, I use the one I like most is Xero, but I used a company called Bean Ninjas to set that up for me, and I could just never reconcile it myself. My accountant had to do the reconciling because the American and English thing and all the different accounts and things. It just never made sense to me. And the only thing that ever makes sense to me is running my own cash flow on a spreadsheet. But that also then helps me give good numbers to the accountant for the end of the year, trial balance. So I'm going back to that. I'm just going back to keeping it on a spreadsheet, giving my accountant my trial balance and discussing it with them. Because really, they don't actually, like you say, most accountants just sign off on your own figures that you give them anyway.
They do.
They don't do much, do they? And I was looking at the, if you get a good one, they do, but they're not very proactive, most of them, are they?
I've never found a proactive one.
And the other thing I didn't No, I've had 2 proactive ones and they've been really good, but they've had things wrong with them that have meant I couldn't stay for other reasons. And so now I just want, and I was looking at this is how exciting my weekends get, right? I was looking at the HMRC website yesterday,
I've been known to do that.
There's a thing called simple accounts that don't need auditing, so they don't need signed off by anyone, and you just submit them in a simplified manner. And I'm thinking I'm going to have a go at that this year.
Yeah, I mean, as for a small company, that's all you have to do. I mean, I do that out of Xero, so I do use Xero, and the multi-currency bit worked for me.
And how are you quite good at getting Xero to reconcile on a monthly basis to your bank account?
Yes, yeah.
To your bank. So I used to end up with all sorts of mad numbers, thousands out.
And to be fair, right, it has taken a while, but I've got a business bank account with HSBC for all the international stuff that people send payments to. I've got a Tide bank account because they're cool and funky, and that works really well. I've got PayPal, like you say, but I've also got multi-currency PayPal accounts. So there's stuff sitting in dollars and euros and other things. And I've got a Euro account with Tide as well for when I run the conference. And so
you have all of those all feeding into Xero?
Yes, almost all. I don't think the multi-currency Tide account has a direct feed yet.
Right.
But it doesn't have many transactions. They're just big.
Yeah. So, and you manage to reconcile it every month. Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah. So, I mean, it should be really simple. Okay. But because I pay extra for the multi-currency version, you just go, this is a multi-currency invoice. This is the amount in sterling that went out. Click reconcile, and it just puts in the exchange rate.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed. That's all I can say. What else have you been up to then?
Apart from the other thing with getting rid of the accountant was I thought I would just swap, and then I went, actually, I'm saving myself $2,000 a year. Right now, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then I've done the accounts myself in the past. I did it for 4 years early on.
What were they doing for $2,000?
$2,000. Okay, so normal accounts, some payroll because I had staff, managing the auto enrollment pension scheme, which is a faff. And it all adds up.
Yeah, I suppose it does. And those are things that you really shouldn't be doing. I think once you get past VAT, then you've got to have an accountant. Could you have a bookkeeper though, and then to run those things for you?
I could do, but to be honest, that side of things doesn't take long at all. A few minutes here and there. So, and I've always done my own VAT. I never got the accountant to do that. That takes 4 minutes. I timed it the other day. At the end of the month, I click submit VAT return. It goes online. Plop. And it takes me 3 minutes to go in and send the payment.
I bet any accountants watching this will be they're tearing their hair out.
It's just like automated. Plop.
Yeah, well, like I said, I could never get it to reconcile, so that was the end of that for me. I should have just paid a small fee every month to get the Bean Ninjas people to do it for me, really. But I didn't like the fact that I was paying for something that I didn't understand. I want to understand things. I don't mind outsourcing, but I like to know what I'm outsourcing.
That makes sense. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do my own accounts for a year or two until I get really busy and I get fed up with it, and I'll find another accountant.
Yeah.
This time, I was working on what I would do differently, because traditionally I go and find an accountant, either a relative, a friend, someone we meet networking. This time I would do what I would do for any other product, which is just go online, look at reviews, find someone who's a specialist in what we do, and supporting them in that way of working.
Yeah.
And go that way.
Well, that's why I like Bean Ninjas, because they were based out of Australia originally, but they've got UK people now. I've met the founder loads of times, and they specialize in people who do internet marketing and e-commerce online. So all of their clients are digital nomad types, which is very cool. Yeah. So I do recommend them. It's just it didn't work for me at the time.
Well, I mean, I'll get that. I always think accountants should save you more money in tax than you pay the accountants. That's the other rule of thumb.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any profit, there's no point in paying accountants.
And they can't do it. They can't do that every year, can they? Because otherwise, it'll get very creative.
I know they should be able to do that, because there's just normally some bog standard things. One of the things that annoys me about accountants is because they're not proactive, they don't go and find stuff. So I've always gone, oh, that looks interesting. And I do a bit of research and I send it to the accountant and say, I'm thinking of doing this. Will that work? And they go, yeah, that'll work. Well, why didn't they suggest it in the first place? Yeah.
You know why, don't you? Because the laws have changed about accountants, and the law is now, I think, that they're not allowed to proactively suggest ways to save you tax. I think they're supposed to. They're acting for the government.
Oh no,
I think
it's not quite like that. They're not supposed to suggest tax avoidance schemes. I think.
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
For basic stuff, like I quite often use research and development tax credits.
Right.
Okay, because we work on various projects that may or may not work out in gamification that are a bit of fun, and pretty much there's a lot of stuff you can claim against the money you spend, particularly wages and stuff like that, on research and development tax credits. And it's like one line on the tax return. You need some figures backing up where your people spent the time and effort and a bit of detail about the project, but you've got that because you've been working on it. And they never suggest that every year. In fact, they do the accounts and I go, oh, I seem to be paying more tax than normal. And I look through and I compare it to the previous year, a very simple thing. And I go, oh, yes, haven't done the R&D tax credit. And I send them a thing. And they just never remember to do it.
There
should be a series of tick boxes. It's like, have I looked after my client to do? Have they got this? Have they got that? Have they?
See, I've never even heard of R&D tax credits.
It's been around for years.
Well, I'm sure I need some.
Well, every time we dabble in new software systems or new processes that innovate in different ways, some of them work for R&D tax credit.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it saves a lot of tax. I think it halved my corporation tax bill last year. You know.
Okay, we need a conversation about this after.
this is about poking it. You see, this is what annoys me about accountants is they don't poke things. They want to make life easy for themselves. Yes. Every client should look as similar as possible, and we just click a button and handle as many as we can. And there's no personalized, customized service, but also there's no proactiveness. Oh, apparently this is one of my bugbears.
So do you think that's typical of suppliers generally, though, that they get into a rut after a while? And does that apply to us? You know, are we in danger of not being curious enough on an ongoing basis for clients?
The short answer is yes. Yeah, because like I said, we all look at like what makes life easier for us. Okay, but I think it's just very systematized in the accounting industry, probably also solicitors, but I know less about that. So for instance, I historically have got lots of customer relationship management database clients because that's what I started 20 years ago doing that. And I still look after some of them. And I admit I get interested in something else for a while and I forget to go and ask them what they're doing, how they're using it and so on. But I know that I should be more proactive. Whereas I think accountants forget that they never even seem to start by doing that. Whereas I do have systems set up to remind me, go and have a check-in with them, see how they're using it now, you know, what's changed. Because especially at the moment, I'm going through a review with all my CRM clients because all of them have had changes over the past 5 months. You know, is it different staffing levels, different processes? Have they pivoted the business? What do they need to do differently? And I would say this, every single one of them implemented the same CRM system in a different manner to the others. Yeah, so customization is really key. I mean, I imagine there are systems you use that you use completely differently to anyone else who uses them.
Yes, probably.
I haven't even said what I've been up to.
I was just thinking that one through. Oh. Yes. So do you think it's the fact that the person who set up the business is the curious one who's driven by the curiosity and the entrepreneurial spirit? I mean, I do very regularly send previous clients things I think they'll be interested in.
That's brilliant.
And current clients actually, but previous clients as well. I said one for you, you know, and I send it over because I just can't help my brain ticking over all the time. But so I think the founders of businesses are entrepreneurial and curious and driven like that. Whereas perhaps when you get to a bigger firm and you systemize things to make them, well, A, to make sure you turn out a perfect burger every time, E-Myth style, and B, the fact that, you know, you have to onboard people easily, don't you? So getting them to do a job to a good standard is, but then that presumably means that you're hiring people who aren't as curious and interested.
Maybe, but you can systematize curiosity. You know, it's just a case of asking questions of a certain type and reminding people to do that and to customize things. For instance, I would like my burger the same every time. I get that. But your accounting work is unique to your organization and how you work.
Yeah.
And yet that's not how you're treated. So,
Yeah. Do you think there should be someone at an accountancy company, for example, who, you know, that they do the lower level people do the systemized work, and then it should get run past a higher level person, shouldn't it? To say, oh, why is there no R&D on this?
Except the issue is the curious people, the ones who are actually interested in finding new stuff, are the young people, and then they get sort of battered down when they raise these things.
Yeah, I know how they feel sometimes. I've had a slight week like that this week. Yes, various things. Oh, so have you done anything nice this week? Anything?
Have I done anything nice? Yeah.
Have you
been
out?
Have I been out? I was about to go to the beach on yesterday. And my daughter said, "Shall we go to the beach?" And I looked out the window. It was a bit grey. I was like, "Let's wait 10 minutes and have a look." And then 10 minutes later, it was pouring down. And then I said to her, "Do you still want to go to the beach?" And she said, "No."
Big black cloud over Shoreham. I know exactly the one you meant.
Yeah. So I was almost in the sea for that one, but I managed to have a bit of logic. Go on. I mean, for me, actually, an interesting thing happened on last Friday when I run my action learning set, the Gameful Leadership Guild, for a bunch of people who are doing interesting gamification projects. And one of the members is on about 5 different projects at any one time. Okay. And one of those was really interesting. They brought it along, and I think we might dive into this in the future. But they've got a 17,000 member organization around a particular topic with very little engagement, although it's a massive site and forum and stuff. So we've started looking at how to gamify that and get people more engaged, reactivate people.
Yeah, I won a badge today on Facebook for being a big fan of someone, because I've interacted with their lives so much.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to activate it. So I thought to myself, do I really want everyone to know I'm a huge fan of this person? And I thought, yeah, actually, I don't mind. I don't mind giving them that credibility. So I said, yeah, go on then, show my super fan badge. So it can work.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot more to gamifying a community than that.
I know, but it was an example that sprang to mind.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that is a huge 17,000 people.
Worldwide
and
as well.
Not much interaction.
There's some, but as always with these things, there's a few people who are very active, who run like local events, or I mean, online at the moment. There's a few people who speak a lot. But there's a lot of people who are inactive. So it's what you do with them. How do you encourage that? And also it's a big topic, and they're about to go broader. So they're about to have more complexity, which will make things harder. So now's a really interesting time to look at that project.
Yeah. I mean, we've just finished, as you know, my other podcast, Own It. And we had about 250 people in our group, which wasn't, huge, considering that we had over 1,500 downloads per episode. So it was really interesting that hardly, it was always the same people. It was, I would say, 20 or 30 people interacting all the time. So every time an episode came out, they would come on and discuss it and say how they felt about it. And then we announced that it was the last episode, and something like 200 people have come and said goodbye and we're sorry you're going and all that stuff. So it's interesting, isn't it, that all those people didn't interact while we were going.
Yeah, I mean, I've forgotten what the stats are, but it's the same with most online communities. There's like 5 to 10% of people who are very active or very active. The rest lurk, and quite often they are reading stuff and engaging in other ways. They're not contributing.
The introverts.
Yeah, sometimes. But there's lots of different approaches to that. This particular site has like 3 main things they need to do, benefits to the membership, as it were. One is like visibility and profile. So there's a lot to do on that. One is like career progression within their expertise area, and the other one is about community and networking and so on.
So we'll have to put you in charge of our group then, won't we? Because we've got a group for Poke It.
Yeah.
And I'd love it if anyone watching us on YouTube or listening to us on iTunes shortly and Google Play would come and join the group, and then you can be in charge of gamifying it to get people talking. There's quite a few tools. There's quite a few tools that Facebook give you for that. So nowadays,
I should dive into that, because actually I haven't used Facebook for that purpose. Nearly all the projects I work on are either standalone websites or intranets, things like that.
Yeah.
So there.
I mean, I do go through phases where I just think I just want to not stop using Facebook for business, because they are making it harder and harder, as I'll talk about in a forthcoming episode. I had a complete heart attack yesterday about something, but it turned out not to be what I thought it was. But it really did just make me think, how do we get off Facebook? Because by hosting our marketing assets, which is what groups are, on someone else's platform, especially me. I mean, they seem to hate me for some reason. I mean, I'll never do anything. I'm actually a really good person. I'm not a what's the word, terrorist or infiltrator or anything. But they just your saboteur. They seem to take offence to anything, things books I've written in the past. I mean, I don't know what it is, whether I'm just getting paranoid now. But anyway, so I would always be much happier off than on. But but everybody's
there's a classic thing, isn't there, with business, which is to have control over your assets.
Yeah.
And yet,
but if all your audience are on a platform and they don't want to come off it, you have to have a presence on that platform, because you don't get. I mean, I've tested so many times forums versus Facebook groups, and people just never visit forums, even with an app. So you're hamstrung a bit.
Well, they do, but they have to be such a massive scale to get to that 5% of people who are going to engage.
Yeah. Otherwise, the tumbleweed is very prevalent.
Correct. So I mean, I've got an issue with that myself, which is I want to start a group for the members of my Gameful Leadership Guild, but I'm only really recruiting 6 to 8 people at a time every couple of months. So it's never going to be a massive group. It's going to be small, intense learning.
Oh, wait, that's a limiting belief. Why do you think it's only ever going to be that big? Because that's how many you like to work with.
Yeah.
Ah, right.
Also, there's only so many gamification projects going on at certain stages at any one time, in the time zone where I'm comfortable managing it and facilitating it.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I've got quite a lot of interest in Southeast Asia at the moment. I'm like, what time of day will that be that I'm facilitating?
Not a great time zone. I have to get up at 8 o'clock on a Thursday morning for my New Zealand and Australian clients, and I do it, but I know that their clocks are going forward soon, and they go forward slightly, and apparently it will just push them out of my. So I'll have to swap round to doing evening calls for them, because then they can get up early in the morning. But I don't like doing evening calls. Actually, I don't like doing early morning calls. So I understand the challenge.
Yeah. So that's a bit of fun anyway. But yeah, so I've got that sort of small group motivation challenge ahead of me anyway.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, as a group, my current group started discussing that the other day as well. Like, I was asking them what would they like from it, and they're having a think.
Yeah.
They're having a think about that. I mean, talking about control over your marketing assets, that actually kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about this week, which was LinkedIn and using it to the best ability. Because one of the things that annoys me about these platforms, and I get the logic of why they do it, okay, is the fact that you've got to upload your content natively to it in order to get the best impact. So, for instance, for LinkedIn, you taught me upload the video to it along with subtitling.
Yeah.
And then it'll go further. The algorithms pick it up better. But like you're saying, we're on multiple platforms. So I want to use a system that will upload content to, I don't know, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And they all want native content.
Yeah.
But really, I want to bring more back to my website, not sit within LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, because people have different channels that they want to communicate with you. And I find it quite frustrating.
It is. But that's why the only system that works is a virtual assistant, and one that knows not to put a live link in your content, but to put it in the comments.
See? Now, how do we learn about things like that? How do we poke LinkedIn and find that out that you just said like that?
Well, we do a LinkedIn challenge with someone who knows how LinkedIn works. You have to go to a specialist to learn how each platform works. For example, Nicholas Kuzmich for YouTube, who's Facebook. Mari Smith is a Facebook expert. She's on top of it all the time. She concentrates on just Facebook. And Helen Pritchard is the LinkedIn specialist. Yeah, I did a fantastic. My LinkedIn experience is I'm hardly at all aware of what happens with it, because I had a personal profile as soon as it opened, because I'm on every social media platform as soon as it opens. I ignored it then for years, and quite shocked sometimes when I go back and find out that my profile's so out of date with what I'm actually doing in life. And then it changed its format to be more like Facebook, and it was more visually attractive to me. It had much more pictures and it was a nicer layout. Before that, it was sort of old school and clunky and forum looking, and that didn't work for me at all. And then so I updated my profile again and promptly ignored it for another couple of years. But I've always had the app on my phone so that people could contact me, like, sometimes, someone like you who's on LinkedIn all the time. And then I did Helen Pritchard's 5-day challenge on how to do LinkedIn, and it was brilliant. I mean, Helen is such a bigger than life character. She's very straight talking. I really enjoyed her attitude, and she still hasn't managed to get me to do what she does, which is focus on LinkedIn. She gets a lot of clients from LinkedIn.
I get about half my clients from LinkedIn.
Well, see, I've never had any clients from LinkedIn, and I suppose that reflects the effort I put into it.
Or maybe your audience and where they hang out.
Yes, my audience are 50-something female solopreneurs.
I'm going to give
and they are
really
much more on Facebook. Yeah. But I do like the way LinkedIn looks now, and I do get good engagement with it. And I know I'm over there at least once or twice a week, but I know I could do better. But tell us about your experience, because when did you get on when it first opened?
Oh yeah, it's something like that. Back in the days when we also had Academy profiles, things like that.
Oh yes, Academy.
Yeah, so when LinkedIn came along, I signed up like you do to these things. And I've always had a profile. There's been a few years where I didn't update it much. But I do pivot a fair amount, and one of the first things I update is LinkedIn, because that's where I go if I need to grab a profile or update something else. I think, what's the latest thing I've been writing? And I go to my LinkedIn profile and then grab that. So it's kind of like the first source. Like I noticed the other day, I hadn't actually updated my Facebook profile for ages. So but LinkedIn was. So I could just go into LinkedIn, copy the dates and any text and do that.
And you do lots of, till obviously the lockdown, you do lots and lots and lots of face-to-face networking, don't you?
Well, before lockdown, yes.
Yes. And did you find that the people you were meeting tended to want to connect on LinkedIn afterwards?
Yeah, about a third. Okay.
About a third. Oh, not that many then.
Well, it depends. I would meet quite a lot of people.
Yeah. No. Okay. So, but when people did suggest connecting online afterwards, was it always LinkedIn?
Yeah. No, it depends on the audience. It also depends on the country, and this is one of my issues. It's because I'm global.
Oh my God. Yeah.
LinkedIn works in some countries, it's popular. In other countries, they're just like purely Instagram, purely Facebook.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, or still big on Twitter. There's just there isn't a consistent one platform that rules them all worldwide. And I mean, I'm fortunate in one respect. I don't do much in China, because then I'd be on WeChat and other stuff.
You'd have to be on TikTok.
Do you know what? I've actually just uninstalled the TikTok app because I wasn't
uninstalled it.
Yeah, I was losing too much time to it and not actually gaining anything work-wise from it.
Yeah. I'm quite. I mean, I did the first time I got into TikTok. I definitely wasted a few more hours than I should have done, but especially with the dogs and the animals. I love the nature stuff and the dogs and the animals.
I get hooked on dance challenges. There you go.
Really?
There's something gamified about all the challenges people do, which is that they must put immense amounts of effort and practice into them recording a 30-second video, like 4 or 5 weeks later. And there's, from a gamification point of view, that's always what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to engage, do something difficult, and then celebrate that challenge. I got completely hooked on anything where it was really difficult, and then they were demonstrating it.
Well, I saw the Gogglebox Malones. I don't know if you like Gogglebox, but I do enormously. And the Gogglebox Malones are quite a very a family that you wouldn't imagine would do much dance challenging, but the younger son is really into it, and he got his parents to do one. And it was to quite a funky tune. And this was my only venture into the world of dance challenges. I said to Phoebe and Nelson, oh, God, we've got to do this. And they said, no, Mum. And that was it. No discussion, no negotiation. They won't do it. And you can't do a dance challenge on your own, surely.
Well, you can, but it's not the same. Funny enough, I asked my daughter to do the same, but she's not interested in being on video. She's going through a photo shy.
Oh, okay.
So she said, much the same. No, Dad. I said, oh, okay.
No, that's it. Well, Pete, unless you looks like it's you and me then.
We'll do it on video.
That's a flat no from us.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn then, I think untapped potential for me, perhaps, but that's the other reason I've not paid much attention to it, because it tends to, my perception is it's very corporate. So you get a lot of people who work in organizations on there, and I don't like working with people who work in organizations.
There's actually, it's not true. There's just so many more solopreneurs on there.
Is there?
Yeah. So it's actually about the type of content you put on, where you hang out, and the groups you're in.
I pay no attention to LinkedIn groups. They just seem to be deadly silos.
Well, it depends on the group. So okay. I would say like 80% of the groups I'm members of, there's nothing happening, but the 20% are quite interesting. But no, the trick on LinkedIn is when you see something interesting that fits your profile of what you're interested in, or the type of people who are, is to comment on their content and build relationships through that, which is quite time consuming, but it works very well.
Well, I've got to say, the guy whose fan I've become, I knew of him for years and years and years. And it was only through seeing him on LinkedIn initially doing live videos that I started to warm to him more and started commenting. And then I liked his page over on Facebook and started seeing his stuff on Facebook. So, but he must be doing a lot of live videos on both platforms natively for me to see him equally in both places. But I've got to say, LinkedIn definitely drew me to him.
Now, live's slightly different, because if you've got the right software, you can stream live, as it were, natively to all the different platforms. Whereas
I have that
content,
software. Yeah,
it's different, isn't it?
I was planning for us to do that, but the software let me down because I couldn't figure it out. So I need to have another go at that, because going live with these would definitely bring a bigger audience quicker.
Yeah, I mean, this one we're using, you can live stream to YouTube, but that's just like one channel, and it's not
right. Well,
and it's not.
Talking of which, I was supposed to tell you this in what I've done this week, because I've done a lot of stuff this week for our Poke-it. I've set up the channel, so I can give you the login for that, and you can hook that up to here, which would be interesting.
Yeah.
And I've set up the website, and largely, I haven't gone too mad with that. I've also set up and released the first 2 episodes we recorded on Libsyn. And Libsyn can fire onto our Poke-it Facebook page automatically.
Okay.
So it's done that. Now, so we need to have a discussion about where you're going to share things and where I'm going to share things. So, I mean, I could take Facebook, couldn't I? And you could take LinkedIn, perhaps. I
could take LinkedIn. Yeah. Don't see why not. I've also got quite a big Twitter following. I don't know what yours is like.
Well, mine, it gets fired onto my Twitter automatically. So from Libsyn's really good for that. It does quite a lot of automation.
So from an automation point of view, can it tag us automatically? Can we put the @Pete Jenkins?
No, I'm not. I don't think it can. Or can it? If I put it in the description, it might work.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go. I'll alter that and see if it works. So the question is then,
because I think, if I'm right, if we share a bit of content once and then we pile all our effort onto that one bit of content, we're likely to boost it higher than if we're sharing lots of individual little things. See,
theoretically, we should both share a bit of content each onto each of our profiles on everything. And I did do the there's a thing on Libsyn where it's hooked up to this thing where it makes a little video player. So it takes the picture and the wording of the episode and makes a little sort of thing that goes up and down, the sound wave thing. So If I pass that to you every week, then we could both share it on Friday, couldn't we?
Yeah, and we should also be sharing it. Where can we control our content? Yeah. So do we have a Poke web page?
We've got a Poke website.
So we should embed every episode in it.
Yeah, we won't be doing it. Our VA will be doing it. But yes, that is something that I will be getting her to do. The main issue there was show notes. So when you do a podcast, generally speaking, there are even perhaps, timestamps or whatever. So perhaps, but then neither of us can be bothered to do it. And then paying someone to do your show notes is quite expensive. So I don't know what we're going to do about that.
Well, first thing is just embed them. Okay.
Yeah, but you have to create.
Add show notes later.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Just embed the episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope this is of interest to anyone who wants to start a podcast on a sheep, because that's how we're doing this one.
Absolutely. Well, for me, I mean, we've talked about it a bit, but this is the first one I've been involved in running or being part of.
A co-host.
Yeah, as a co-host, indeed. So it's a learning curve. So I'm interested, but I'm interested in dabbling in it and poking it and seeing what works well.
Yeah, well, this is how I've started everything in my entire life. Every business I've ever done, every social media thing I've ever done, we've just poked at it and improved it as it's gone along.
I've got a final question, I think, about LinkedIn. Okay, so one of the things that will help boost your content on LinkedIn is if you comment and reply to everyone who comments on your piece of content. Okay, which makes sense, right? The algorithm's going to pick it up and say...
And it's just polite anyway.
It is polite. However, a few too many people have cottoned on to this, and now they're doing stuff that isn't personalized or thought of. So, for instance, I like some content. I'm not even commenting on it. And there'll be a bunch of comments around, hey, thanks for liking our post. And so I get a flood of notifications about, I don't need that. It's not actually polite. Yeah, or it might be just thanks for posting or thanks for commenting. Yeah, they're failing to actually build the relationship.
Yeah, you've got to say something about what someone has said. You can't just say thanks for commenting. That's just spam.
Correct. But at the moment, the algorithm still boosts the content.
The other thing I'm not
offending me at the moment.
Yeah, the thing that offends me on LinkedIn is when I go in, I have to do all my liking and commenting first. Because then when I share my own content, I have to make sure I do that last, because otherwise on that sort of summary of what I've been up to on my profile, it just shows all the things I've liked and commented on other people's stuff. And if I don't come back for a few days, my stuff doesn't get shown on that unless I do it last. Yeah,
I mean, I agree. The only thing I'd say about that is how much of the audience is seeing it. So, because really, it's only people who go and click on your profile who'll see that, and they're probably only clicking on your profile because they've seen something of yours. I'm trying to work it out. How many profile views do you get?
Yeah. Well, it goes up the more active, the more stuff the more actual content I share, the more profile views I get.
So for instance, I might get, I don't know, 100 and something profile views in a month.
Yeah.
But a good bit of content, I shared an article a couple of weeks ago. It's at 4,000 views. Now, they haven't gone, and most of them haven't gone and visited my profile, but they've already found the bit of content, which was the latest bit of content. Because I was thinking about this, because it is a bit frustrating to have to wait to do your own one afterwards, because I have been doing the same technique.
Yeah.
Probably because you told me about it.
Probably. After I've done Helen's challenge, 5-day challenge, which I highly recommend.
And then I thought, just actually, how much difference does it make? Whereas actually, you could be better just being yourself, liking, sharing, doing things in the order you prefer. Yeah. So what is it? A small percentage? I don't know. But they only come into your profile because they found you somewhere anyway.
Well, surely they've come to your profile because they've liked a comment you've made on someone else's profile, or they've done a search for your keyword. Maybe,
but if they're searching for your keyword, what do you actually want them to see? Is it a piece of content, or is it actually, this is what I do, the more important bits that are always there? I don't know.
Can you share your screen? Can we go and have a look at a LinkedIn profile, yours specifically?
Well, that sounds like a good idea, doesn't it?
As if we were a punter, potential punter.
Yeah.
Customer, we'll call them customers.
Give me a second. I reckon it's got to be worth a go.
I like to throw technical challenges at him.
I'm gonna put
because we are on some software that Pete's very familiar with and I'm not, so I'm here as a guest, as it were.
Here, let's have a go at this. You see that?
Yes, it's very small though. How do we make it bigger?
Oh, that's a good question. Like,
as a guest, I can make it full screen.
Did that work?
No.
No.
I can make it full screen as a guest, but I'm not sure what the recording's picking up.
No, I don't think the recording is picking that up. So
okay,
let's just. There is a thing. I know you can do it.
This is exactly what this show's all about: poking it to see what happens.
Absolutely.
And sometimes our experiments will go wrong, so we have to be prepared to accept that.
It's an interesting one. I'm gonna leave it like it is at the moment.
Okay, because you think that the recording might be picking it up.
Yeah, let's find out later.
Okay, we will indeed. Okay, so we've got a picture top left, and then we've got your hero shot, your banner.
Yeah.
And then scroll down. I'm going to make it bigger so I can see what.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, so then we've got go back up again.
So we've got the about section after your headline.
I help. Good. I help organisations. Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, I need to update that as always when you see these things. Then the featured section is the
right.
So you can set the order of these. So in the featured section, that's where I put effort. These are slide decks and things like that. Yeah. So there's always a nice image. There's something interesting there.
Yeah. Okay.
You wouldn't see the dashboard bit normally because I'm not looking at it as a. I'm looking at it.
Look at you with your 364 profile views.
Okay, so it was slightly higher than I thought.
Yeah, that's very good. Mine's running at about 180 at the moment, but then I've been a bit slack about putting stuff on. Here we go. This is the activity bit. That's the bit. Okay, so perhaps it is good then for people to see that you're interacting with other people and commenting on other people's things.
Yeah, because if you can use the featured section for the other stuff, and the only bit that's a pain really is how you do articles. Yeah, which are the main, your most recent posts and articles.
Yeah, I don't do articles unless my posts are too long to fit. In which case I'll do an article and then link to the article from the post.
I don't do many articles, but the one that had 4,000 views was an article.
Was it? Yeah. And then down to the boring bits like the CD thing, which is what
all the things that are there.
Yeah, which is what LinkedIn started as, to be fair, isn't it? As an online CV.
Yeah. So and it's still useful because people who've been on it for a long time, there are things they check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the skills and endorsements, who really uses that much these days? So that's down the bottom.
Okay, I'm gonna fess up now because I've just realised that one of my most wonderful clients recently definitely checked me out on LinkedIn.
I see.
And he said I was impressed with your LinkedIn profile.
Ah.
So there you go. I have to eat my own words now. That's a bit annoying, isn't it? Seems, and he is like a tippy top notch kind of client as well. He's like got really successful business and doing really interesting things and is a really nice person and really great fun to work with. So I'm not that my other clients aren't, but they, in terms of the size of their businesses, he is the biggest client I've had for a while. So
there you go.
And great fun to work with. So he thereby negating my thing about corporates and not wanting to work with corporates. He's the CEO of quite a big corporate. So yes, anyway, moving on. All my perceptions.
Yeah. So basically, the essence there was you agreed with me that people just put in like, thanks for your comment. It's spam, isn't it?
It is spam, yeah, because it's not interacting as a human being. It's probably been delegated to an assistant.
I don't think it has. I just think that they
copy and paste.
They're just doing a bulk thing because they found a loophole. Yeah. They're gaming the system.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, it's too obvious and it's spreading. So,
yeah, well, that's because someone's teaching it probably, which Helen wouldn't teach it. She just would say don't do it. She's very anti-automation and anti-systemizing and being, she's all about being a real person. So good. All right. Well, we better crack on because we're running out of time now. What are you looking forward to this week?
What am I looking forward to? Well, tomorrow I'm spending all day at the Brighton Business School module delivery day. So basically, it's getting everyone, all my fellow part-time and full-time lecturers, up to speed with our plans for distance learning in 3 weeks' time when the university semester starts properly.
Wow.
So that's fun. That's a bit of learning and making sure I'm not making any classic mistakes, hopefully. And then,
are you sort of in charge of that then?
so I run it for my course on gamification, and then I'll be delegated some stuff on a couple of other courses where I'm not the module leader.
Yeah.
So it's good to know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
What's likely to come down my way at some point. And then actually I've got some plans. I'm revamping all my content because this taking it online is a good excuse to bring things up to date, change things.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of fun working out how to do online delivery and interactiveness.
Yeah.
I've also got more students than a normal year because I sold it quite well in an online video to the past year students, apparently. So I need to think about how the group work's going to work differently, because it's easy enough doing some group work for 5 to 10 people, but I've got 50 or 60 students.
Wow.
So how are we going to break that up?
They would normally all be sitting in a lecture theatre.
So with 50 or 60, I might have it broken up into 2 sessions. So I might repeat a session.
Right.
In person. So there'd be like 25 to 30 in a room.
God, that's dull, isn't it? Doing things twice?
No, actually. I used to think it would be, but it's quite good fun because you do it once, you learn some stuff, and then the next session you might try something different.
Okay.
So it's a bit like A/B testing, really fast, particularly if the sessions are the same day, which they normally are. So
same day.
Yeah. I mean, one I did a creativity in the enterprise module a few years back, and it was a 2-hour session, and I ran 3 seminar groups. So I had 6 hours on the same day, running the same 2 hours every, with like a 10-minute break in between.
Yeah.
But
it's funny.
It's really interesting seeing the different results you get from an audience for the same content.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how much of it is down to the type of people who are in the room.
Yeah.
As opposed to actually your content.
I once did the same 20-minute presentation 5 times in one day in Las Vegas to, small round table things, and it was tough. It was really tough. Second time was all right. 3rd time was struggling. By the time I got to the 5th time, I was on autopilot, and I didn't really know what my brain was saying at all.
Yeah. So it's not quite so bad with teaching, because you shouldn't be talking at them the whole time. They should be working on stuff, and you're going around interacting and answering any sort of problem issues and questions and that sort of thing. So it's not quite so bad, but it is interesting doing that.
Now, is this thing going to cut us off on the dead of the hour? Because if so, I've got 3 minutes to tell you what I'm up to this week.
Okay, go for it. Tell me what you're up to.
I've got something intriguing for you this week. I don't know if I've told you about this privately or not, but I've had a letter from Marks and Spencer's bank telling me that I have a product with them that they've been trying to track me down over many changes of addresses. And after months of toing and froing trying to verify my identity, we've identified that the address that I was at was when Phoebe was about 3. So she's 20 something now. Just forgot now what my daughter is. But anyway, it's back from 1998.
That must have been one of the very first Marks and Spencer's bank products.
It must have been. It was and they wouldn't tell me what it was. I had to try and remember, and of course I didn't. Anyway, finally we've got to this point where we're nearly at the point where I'm going to find out, because also I thought it was a scam, and I didn't want to give them all the information they were asking for, because I wondered if it was, just a scam. But anyway, by dint of sending it to the head office and getting it passed on to them, I've bypassed that scam element, and we're very close to finding out how much is in it, because I don't even remember taking this product out. I certainly don't remember paying anything into it, and I've got no idea how much is in it. So by next week I should be able to tell you how much is in it, because I might have finally got access to it.
So Phoebe was 3. I reckon you put some money aside for your kids. So when you find out, you're going to go, wow, there's loads of money. And then you're going to realize it's all in Phoebe's name.
I wouldn't be that daft. No, I always keep things in my name. But next week I'll be able to share how much it is. So I bet you're on the edge of your seat now, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. Well, that's us done then.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was good.
I'll see you for the next episode.
Yeah. Bye.
Goodbye.
You're listening to the Poke-It podcast with Pete Jenkins and Nicola Cairncross. You can find Pete at gamificationplus.uk and you can find Nicola at clicksandleads.com. And do come and join our private Facebook group. Just search Poke-It podcast on Facebook.